Okay, we're going to get into the process of how a bill actually becomes a law. And we've already talked a little bit about what the standing committees are. There are 20 in the House, 16 in the Senate. Um, so if you are in the House of Representatives, on the side of the clerk's desk, there's a little box called a hopper. And so that is where, when you introduce your bill, you put it in the hopper. Um, the clerk will take it, it will give it a number, and then it will be sent to the appropriate standing committee. In that committee, several things can happen, or several things do happen. They have hearings on that where they bring in people to testify on it. They mark it up, which means they put it, they go over it with a fine-tooth comb in terms of what the language in that bill is going to be. They make changes to get it exactly what they want it to be. They debate the bill in that standing committee. Sometimes they will take what's called a junket, which is just a trip to investigate, look into more of the details on that particular bill, obviously at taxpayer expense. And then eventually the standing committee will vote on that particular bill. Once again, we looked at the fact that there are about 10,000 bills introduced every year, less than 10%. So a lot of bills are pigeonholed at this point. Discharge petitions are very unusual, so it's very difficult once a bill has been pigeonholed in the standing committee that it actually gets out of that particular committee, so it can die. If this bill is introduced in the House of Representatives, it goes to the House Rules Committee at that point, where the rules of the bill are attached. Once again, they get to be like the traffic cop. They get to determine how long people can debate. Can they amend it? Where it goes on the calendar. And once again, they could put it at the very end of this calendar and it never actually be seen again. So, and it can die in that House Rules Committee again. Once it gets through the standing committee, and if it's pushed through and it gets through the House Rules Committee, then it is sent to the floor of the House, which means at this point all the members get to consider it. Because there are 435 members in the House of Representatives, they are limited to 1 hour debate, and the debate must be germane. And what germane means, it has to be relevant to the subject matter. They cannot just talk about anything like they can in the Senate. So if someone starts to get off topic, the presiding officer in the House will tell them that they need to get back on topic. If someone has the floor and someone else wants them to stop talking, the process of doing that is called to move the previous question. So someone will stand up and they say, I move the previous question, and then that's an opportunity for debate to stop. At that point, what they would do is that all the members, 435 members, would vote on the bill, and once again, this is another opportunity for the bill to die. If it does get passed in the House, it's then engrossed, which when an engrossed bill, and actually it's the word engrossed is stamped on the final version of it. It's printed in its final form. It will have the term engrossed stamped on it, so we know that this is its final version. It will be signed by the Speaker of the House, and then it is sent to the Senate to go through this whole entire process all over again. Once it gets to the Senate, in the Senate they don't have a hopper or anything like that. You just rise to submit your bill, but the presiding officer will assign the bill to its standing committee, and where it goes through that whole entire process. In that original permanent subject matter committee, they will have hearings on it. They will mark it up. They will debate it. If they need to take their junkets, they will do that. They will vote on it then, and at this point, most of them die. There is no rules committee here. It just goes to the floor of the Senate at that time. Now, the difference in the Senate and the House is really where it comes to debating the bill on the floor. In the Senate, they have unlimited debate, and the filibuster is what they use in the Senate. And we just had Ted Cruz recently do his version of a filibuster, and Rand Paul actually filibustered one of the presidential nominees recently. So this is the minority, or just a small group of people's ability to talk a bill to death. They can discuss any subject they want. It does not have to be germane. In the past, they've read cookbooks and the Bible. I know that Ted Cruz the other day read, I believe it was Dr. Seuss while he was there. The longest single filibuster was 24 hours and 18 minutes, and that was by Strom Thurmond. And he was trying to delay a vote on a civil rights bill that eventually does pass. You have to stand, you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't leave the chamber, so obviously you can't use the restroom. So this is a very uncomfortable process. In 1917, they created a cloture rule. There was like a 3-week-long filibuster to try and stop the United States from entering into World War I. And obviously it wasn't one person who filibustered for 3 weeks, but it was a tag team effort by several senators who did not want the United States to enter that war. So for 3 weeks they held the floor of the Senate. So after that they created this cloture rule, and this rule is a way to stop a senator from filibustering. But to get that one to stop, they have to have 60 members vote for cloture. So then once they've voted for that, they have 2 days after the petition, and then an additional 30 hours on top of that. So even once you've instituted this cloture rule, you still have, basically 3 more days where you can hold the Senate captive. They don't like to use cloture, a couple reasons. The Senate and Congress itself is supposed to be dedicated to free speech, and you shouldn't stop anyone from that. But the real reason is, if you stop someone from their filibuster when you have an issue that you want to try and postpone or to get changed, you would like to have that filibuster available to you. But because of the filibuster, and this is really important, it actually takes 60 votes in the Senate to get anything passed. And that's what frustrates them, because you typically don't have one party that has that many votes, and so they would have to get the other party to join in on this. And so if you don't have 60 votes, there's always the threat of a filibuster on every single bill that comes through there. So now what happens, once it's to the full Senate, they will vote on the bill, and once again, it could die. But if it's passed on and it's voted on, now typically we have 2 versions of the same bill. We have the original bill that started in the House that was sent to the Senate, and odds of the Senate not changing that are slim. So then they have to form what's called a conference committee. And the purpose of this committee is to iron out the differences of these 2 bills before it's sent to the Senate. They cannot add any new material to it, and it does have members of both the House and the Senate from the original standing committees. Once it's gone through and they've created what's called a conference bill, then this bill actually has to be sent back to both the House and the Senate for them to vote on again before it can be sent to the President. 4 things a President can do to a bill. He can sign it and it becomes law. He can veto it, and if he does that, it goes back to the House where it originated first, and then they have to vote on it again, and if they can get 2/3 vote in that House, it's sent to the other House, and they have to have 2/3 votes also in order to override it. A couple other things can happen where the President doesn't actually sign the bill at all, and depending on what's going on in Congress determines the outcome of this bill. If the President does nothing with the bill, and after 10 days Congress adjourns and they are out of session, the bill actually dies. And so obviously Congress is aware of this, so if they know they're on the verge of adjourning, then they need to get things to the President, because if there's something he doesn't want, but he doesn't want the responsibility of actually vetoing it, he can just hang on to it and it will die when Congress adjourns. Or it can become law without the President's signature. If he does nothing with it and in those same 10 days Congress is still in session, then it actually becomes law without his signature. The line item veto. The President may veto individual items in a bill, or that's what the line item veto was. Bill Clinton is the only president to actually have this. So he could go in and basically write the legislation. If he didn't like something in the bill, he would just take it out. The Supreme Court ruled that the line item veto was unconstitutional because it did give the president legislative powers that the Constitution did not give him. I'm going to play this video. I think it's a nice overview of how a bill becomes a law, and it is a few minutes long. Where did it go?